This last decade was filled with tons of remasters. Plenty of the biggest hits of the past few years haven't been new IPs, but instead remakes or remasters of previously beloved games. Chances are the 2020s will contain just as many new updates to old games, so I figured I'd start the decade by listing 5 games that I want to see remastered within the next 10 years. First up, we have a fitting game for this channel, Fallout 3. With a recent addition to the Fallout 4 Creation Club, rumours about a Fallout 3 remaster seem stronger than ever. Personally, I don't expect one anytime soon, but Fallout 3 is a game I love, and one I've been wanting to play more of. To be fair, the old game is perfectly acceptable to still play, and I'm probably going to be playing more of it soon. That said, it would still be great to see an upgraded version of Fallout 3. Fallout 4 added a ton of quality of life improvements, such as better menus, smoother controls, and better combat mechanics. I'd be more than happy to just see all of the Capital Wasteland be rebuilt to play, work, and look the same as things did in Fallout 4. Considering the 7 years that took place between the two games, it's no surprise how far improved the latter game was technically, but Fallout 3 has a certain level of charm and personality that I absolutely adore. When talking about the Fallout franchise in general terms, this tends to be the game I think of. As it came out in October of 2008, I could see maybe a 15-year anniversary remake occurring in 2023. That still is a few years away though, and none of us truly know what kind of public perception the Fallout franchise will have at that time. Regardless of if overall opinion is good or bad, I feel that a remake could be a smart move from Bethesda, either as a celebration of them taking over the franchise, or as a reminder for why many players first fell in love with the modern Fallout games. Next up, we have a double entry, Final Fantasy VIII and Final Fantasy IX. Coming out in the years 1999 and 2000 respectively, these games have technically been remastered already. However, with Final Fantasy VII gaining a radical remake this year, I'd be interested to see 8 and 9 receive similar treatments. I mean, just look at how good the 7 remake trailer looks. It was the game that got a lot of love, so it makes sense that it gets the first overall remake, but, for me at least, 8 and 9 were the games that made me a Final Fantasy fan. As a point of personal preference, I actually prefer the old ATB system that these games used, as opposed to the more modern action-based combat systems. As such, these remakes wouldn't be something I'd be all that interested in playing myself, but is more on my list as I want people who missed these games first time around to get to experience the characters, setting and story that they lay out. Final Fantasy IX is my favourite game of all time, and I would love for more people to get to experience the game, without being put off by the dated mechanics and old visuals. That being said, the game still holds up pretty damn well visually for being 20 years old. I mean seriously, this footage is from a Steam port of a game and it's still looking pretty impressive. I've played games within the past couple of years with worse cinematics than this game, and just the thought of a 4K recreation of the opening credits, Vivi fighting Black Waltz 3, or the Sandy Tree Clara gives me goosebumps. If the games do get a remaster, then there is one thing I wouldn't want to change though, and that's the music. The soundtracks for Final Fantasy games in general are great, but to me, these two contain some of the very best songs of any games ever. The music playing in the background right now comes from these games, and it's the kind of thing I'll happily listen to whenever I get the chance. Our penultimate game is Morrowind. A favourite to many fans of the Elder Scrolls series, this game will be 18 years old this year. That's old enough to get completely wasted in my country, and seems about time that it gets a visual update at the very least. Now, I know there will be a few of you getting ready to comment that Morrowind features in the Elder Scrolls Online, so it's already been visually remastered, but that's not really enough for me. ESO is a vastly different style of game to the single-player Elder Scrolls entries, and although it is nice to be able to revisit locations from the single-player games, it's really not the same as experiencing the game itself again. Morrowind is also the odd one out on this list, as it's the only of the games I haven't previously done a full playthrough of. I have played some of the game, and will actually be playing more of it in order to capture footage for this video. As it is though, the game is just a little too dated for me to play at this point. Along with many of the more generic difficulties with playing an older game, the big turn-off for me has to be the whole chance to hit system the game came with. When playing Morrowind for the very first time, this was the first thing I encountered which I wholeheartedly did not like about the game, as opposed to simply being something that I found a little annoying. Ideally, I would like to see most systems within Morrowind be updated, although I certainly wouldn't want it to suddenly become just a reskin of Skyrim. It is worth mentioning that the Skywind project is still underway, and hopes to recreate Morrowind within the Skyrim Special Edition game engine, which potentially serves as an ad hoc remake. The final game I want to see remastered during this decade is Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning. Honestly, screw all the other games. This is the one that matters most. Kingdoms of Amalur is an amazing game that sadly never got the required sales to merit a sequel. Released in February 2012, this game was out just a few short months after Skyrim, another fantasy RPG which likely stole a lot of its thunder. The game has a vast living world with several different joinable factions, deep lore scattered throughout, a trio of different skill trees which can be mixed and matched at any point to change how your character plays, and a combat system which is better than 90% of games that come out today. If you're looking for a fantasy RPG to sink your teeth into, then you should just play this game, remake or no. As for the possibility of a remake, it's far from fantasy. The IP was bought up by THQ Nordic back in late 2018. Considering the 10-year anniversary of the game is just a couple of years away, there's enough time for a remake, or even a sequel, to have been worked on in that time. Probably the biggest factor that would mean this wouldn't be the case is the fact the game didn't do well enough financially to keep the studio in business, and, in the end, money wins. If you do want to see this game for yourself, then I'll make sure to link my full permadeath playthrough in the description. If the game looks appealing to you, then I highly recommend picking it up. Chances are it's incredibly cheap right now, and will be worth every penny you pay for it. And that is it for the list. Did you agree with my choices, or was there a game you think deserves a remake this decade that I didn't include? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button, and feel free to browse my channel to see if there's anything else you fancy watching. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.